Hello everyone, I'm RR, and in today's plugin coding guide, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make an RPG framework plugin. So if you're expecting something advanced, this is probably not going to be satisfying, but this will teach you the basics of an RPG class framework. So I'm going to be going through how to make RPG classes. Basically, there are professions and kits that you can select through the use of a GUI, and you can switch between them. And I'm also going to be covering the class abilities. So each class will have like a set of weapons that when you right click, it'll perform like some attack or something. So those are the skills, as I call them, not to be confused with skill attributes like the skill plugin coding guide video that I made. A few footnotes: I will be using Spigot 1.15.2 as my Spigot API because that's the latest. And also secondly, I'm going to be using IntelliJ IDEA as my IDE. If you're using any other IDE like Eclipse, NetBeans, Visual Studio Code for some reason, if you're weird, god, then some of the steps will be different, but for the most part it should stay the same. And lastly, I have a back mic, so deal with it. Alright, so all I've done here is I've created a new project called RPG class. You can call your project whatever you want, but since I'm teaching on RPG, I'll just name this RPG class. And I've done literally nothing. I've just created the project and that's it. So let's go ahead and set up the plugin. Alright, so we're back. All I've done is I've told this IDE that I want to use Spigot 1.15.2, and I've told them how to compile the output, so include the main package contents as well as the plugin.yml. And then in the plugin.yml that I created here, I've just included the 3 basic fields that we needed. So all these 3 fields are the ones that are needed for every plugin to work. If you don't have them, then it won't work. Then also I've gone ahead and created the main package and the main class here. All the main class has is an onEnable and onDisable method, so that's all good. So at this point we're ready to check whether or not our plugin works. It's always good to pre-build your plugin just to make sure that you didn't do any setup wrongly, so that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, and there you go. You can see our plugin started and everything starts correctly. So if we go ahead and stop the server, it also disables. So we set our plugin up correctly. Now we can go ahead and start coding. So one thing I want to change before I start coding is in the plugin YML, other than in these 3 mandatory fields, I want to add in an API version field. And I'm going to put 1.13. This will tell the plugin that I'm going to be using an API version of 1.13 and above, because a lot of stuff changed over different Minecraft versions, and if you want to use different type of stuff for different versions, you might encounter an error if you don't specify which version you're going to use. So I'm going to be using 1.13 and above, so I'm just going to write this right here. And then I'm going to begin by creating a utility class like I always do. Alright, so this utility class will pull in the logger from the main class. As you can see, I've set up a static variable for the logger in here, and it's gonna be used to log out messages in this method right here. So whatever you type in using a log method will be printed out in the console. And here I also have a color method which color codes into their specific color. So for instance, NB to aqua, NA to lime green, so on and so forth. And I also have a decolor method here which translates all color codes and strips out the color from them, so they won't have any color codes in front. And lastly, I also have a message player method right here, which just sends a bunch of messages color coded to the player. So we can go ahead and test our log method over here. Go ahead and import the static class so we can type in the class methods without needing to type the class in front, like this. So at the end of the onEnable method, we'll just say plugin fully enabled. And then at the end of the onDisable method, we'll just say plugin fully disabled. Alright, and now we're done. So usually when I start a project, the first thing I go to after setting up everything is I do the configuration files. So I'm just going to create a sub package here to keep it organized. And then we're going to need a config abstract class. So I'm going to have an abstract class which extends YML configuration so that we can have custom configuration files in our plugin. And it's going to need three main fields here. The first being the main class from our main, obviously, so that we can generate a file. We need the name of the class, the name of the file. So if it's say config.yml, then the name of the config.yml. If it's data.yml, arenas.yml, then that will be the name for it. Then of course we also need a file object to load and read data from. So let's create a constructor which takes in only the main class and the name of the file. So let's chuck these in there. And then we can instantiate the file object. And the file object requires two child, the parent file and the child file, as you can see over here, parent child and the file child. So the parent folder for the plugin will be get data folder, and then the child would just be the name of the file. Then of course with every configuration file we're going to need to load and save data to it. So we can need a load config method and a save config method. So in the load config method we're gonna load the contents from the file into memory so we can use it, and this throws two exceptions. The first one is invalid file with invalid configuration exception, and the second one is an IO exception. So we're just going to try catch for these. Technically it throws three, as if you hover over here you can see that it has three exceptions, but actually four. But only these two are needed to be try catched. And then for the save configuration method, we're going to be saving to the file, and this one only throws IO exceptions, so that's all good. Alright, so usually with my load and save config methods I like to log out what happened. So we'll go ahead and use the log method here. If it is successful, then we say loaded data from the config file's name. And if any error occurred, then we'll just say error loading data from file name. And then the same thing in the save configuration method, except this will be saved and this will be saving. Alright, and then before we forget, because when you run this plugin for the first time, the files won't exist, so loading and saving will cause an error. So I'm just going to create another method here to check whether the file exists or not. So if the file does not exist, then we want to generate the file. So first we have to make sure the parent folders of the file exist. So we use mock directories here. So if the parent folders for the file do not exist, then it will attempt to create the folders. If it does already exist, it will do nothing. So next time after that's done, we can go ahead and create the file with main.save resource. Resource path would just be the name of the file, and then replace will be false, because we don't want to replace the existing configuration files if there already is one. So with main.save resource, we're going to need a configuration file in our plugin project structure. So if we think ahead here, we're only going to need a configuration file to save the data for the player's class. So I'm just going to call this players.yml, and this configuration file will save the data relating to a player's class, date that they joined, how many kills they have, blah blah blah. But for the purpose of this project, it's only going to save the player's class. So make sure that check file is called before loading and before saving. And it should mostly be done for this. So now we can go ahead and extend this configuration class. So we need one configuration file for saving player information. I'm going to call it playConfig, and we're going to extend our newly created configuration abstract class, import the constructor, and because we know the name of our player configuration class, which is called players.yml file, then we can just type in here players.yml, because that's the name of our file right here. And then this file will contain methods specifically for saving and loading data from the players.yml file. So for now, we're not going to do anything here, and we'll revisit this class later on. So now that we have configuration files here, we need a manager to save all the configuration files and load them all at once. Just going to create another package here for all the managers that I have. So I'm going to create a config manager, which is going to have a list of all the config files that we have, as well as each of their specific objects. So the constructor is going to require a main class. Right, so in the constructor of this config manager class, we're going to want to instantiate all the configs that we have, but we only have player config for now. So what we can do is something like this, and then we can go ahead and add it to our array list like that. But then this takes like 2 lines for every single config file that you have, so a faster way to do it would be something like this. So this is all in one line, so this line is the same as these 2 lines, so we can get rid of these 2 lines. Next up, we're going to have a method to load all the configuration files at once, as well as save all the configuration files at once. So just going to call config.saveConfig for every single config class, and this is going to be the same for load config. There we go. So it's just going to load all the configs and save all the configs. And then we're going to have a getter for our player config class. And then that's all. So now that we have our class done, we can instantiate one in our main class. Then when our plugin enables, we're going to create a new instance of this. And then load the configuration files. And then when our plugin disables, then we're going to save all the configuration files. So essentially what I've done here is, when the plugin enables, we're going to want to load all the configuration files that we have. And when the plugin disables, we want to save all the plugin configuration files that we have. So that's all we've done in these steps. Alright, so moving on here, we're going to actually create the classes now. So I'm just going to have another package here. Just going to call it framework. And it's going to contain an enum class called, and then it's going to contain all the classes that we want. So I have 3 in mind for now. I'm going to have a swordsman, an archer class, and a mage class. So these are the 3 that I want to create right now. So each of this class will have a name as well as a raw name. I'll explain what this is later on. So the name is going to be the color coded name, and then the raw name is going to be the name without the color code. So here we can go ahead and use our decolor method that we have. Then make sure you import it over here. So it's going to take in the color coded name, decolor it, and then store it in this raw name variable. So now we need to instantiate each of their names. So source one is going to be a cyan color or dark aqua, whatever you want to call it. Source one. Archer is going to be blue color or aqua, and the mage is going to be light pink. Alright, so now that we have these three with their names, we're going to need, first off, what armor they have, and secondly, what items they have. So the armor they have would just be their helmet, chestplate, leggings, and boots. And the items they have are basically what items you want to put in their inventory. Say their weapons, their food, some other miscellaneous items. For now, I'm just going to add in food and their weapons. So, for their armor, we're going to need item stack array. I'm going to call it armor. And then what items they have, I'm just going to call it items. And then thirdly, before I forget, we also need the icon from them. And this icon is going to be what's going to be showing in the inventories when we choose our character. So this is going to be an item stack because it's an item. So item stack icon. So these three are needed. So we're going to go ahead and put them in our constructor. So our armor, our icon, and then lastly I'm going to use a dot here, items. So go ahead and put them on a constructor and then assign them to their variables. And if you're wondering what this dot here means, if you haven't learned what this means, I'll show you what it does later on, but for now, just keep in mind this is pretty useful. And then don't forget we're also going to need the getters. So we're going to need to get all these later on. And there we go. Alright, so now that we have the classes, we're going to need to create the actual icons, armor, and items that they have. And for this, I'm going to create another class which is going to contain their items. And we're going to pre-create the items in here for use in the classes here. So I'm going to need to create a handy method in our utilities class that's going to be repeatedly used. Alright, so this method is going to be called create item, and what it does is first it creates an item given the material and its amount. Then these fields here glow and unbreaking. So glow makes the item glow, so if we want the item to glow here, it's gonna add a field called hide enchants, and it's gonna enchant that item with unbreaking 1. So what it does is it's gonna make it enchanted, so the item's gonna be glowing, but it's not gonna show in the lore because of our item flag here called hide enchants. And then if our item is gonna be unbreakable, we're just gonna set it to be unbreakable. And then lastly, we're gonna have a name. So if you want to specify a custom name, it's going to color that name and set it as the display name. And if we specify a lore, it's going to color each of the lore and then set it as the lore. So I forgot to set it here. Let me just do it right now. Meta.set lore list. Alright, and then finally it's going to set the changed meta back to the current item meta, and it's going to return the item. So in summary, what this does is it creates an item given all these fields, whether you want it to be glowing, unbreakable, if you want to have a custom name, if you want to have a custom lore. So that's what this field does, this method. So now that we're back in our items class, we can go ahead and create the items now. So firstly, we're going to create the swordsman's icon. It's going to be an item stack. So we can use the create item method here, and let's just import it manually. There we go. So the first field is the material of the item. So I want it to be an iron sword, and it's only gonna have one iron sword. Is it glowing? No. Do you want it to be unbreakable? It doesn't really matter, but no. Do you want it to have a custom name? Yes. What is the custom name? We're just gonna call it Swordsman. Does it wanna have a lore? I'll just give it a simple lore saying a decent melee character. And then I'm gonna go ahead and create the other two classes icons here. Alright, so I've went ahead and created the other two icons for Archer and Mage. So now, we can go ahead and create the armor for them. I'm going to do the armor first. So the armor has to be an array because it contains 4 pieces: the helmet, chestplate, leggings, and boots. And for this, we're going to create another method in our utilities class. And then what this method does is it's essentially going to create an array with 4 slots, and then it's going to assign the fourth to helmet, the third to chestplate, the second to leggings, and the first to boots, and it's going to return that array. And this is because how Minecraft is coded is when you save and you get or you load the armor from the player, it's in reverse order. So usually you'd think that 0, 1, 2, 3 will be helmet, chestplate, leggings, boots, but it's actually the opposite direction. So from the top, chestplate, helmet, leggings, boots. Helmet, chestplate, leggings, boots. So the armor is reversed order, and then it's just going to take in some items that we're going to create using this method over here. So we can show that right now. So for our swordsman armor, we're going to need create armor. So we're going to import it out there as well, as you can see. And then it's going to require a helmet, so let's create the helmet. Going to give it a iron helmet. God, I don't English. Do you want it to glow? No. Do you want it to be unbreakable? Yes. Do you want to have a custom name? No. And then do you want to have a custom lore? No. But we can just omit this last field here. And then I'm going to create the other 3 for chestplate, leggings, and boots. So I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, so here I've created 4 item stacks, and I put them together in the create armor method, which returns an item stack array. So I'm going to do the exact same for the archer's armor as well as the mage armor, and I'll see you later on. Alright, so I've created the archer's armor and the mage armor. So as you can see, the swordsman armor will have full iron. The archer will have a combination of half chainmail, half leather, and the mage will have a combination of half golden and chainmail leggings and leather chestplate. So obviously the mage armor and archer armor will have a weaker armor than swordsman, as stated in their lore over here. So now we can go ahead and create their weapons. So the weapons are just going to be normal items. So for the swordsman, I'm going to want him to have a sword, and it's going to be an iron sword. One iron sword. Does it want to be glowing? No. Should it be unbreakable? Yes. Does it want to have a name? I'll just give it a name called Swordsman's Sword. And this is where you can really let your imagination flow. You can name your items whatever you want, give them a custom lore. I'm just going to give them a description of how their abilities work, so I'll write it out right now and I'll explain it to you afterwards. Alright, so the Swordsman's Sword is going to have a dash ability or skill, and R just stands for right click to activate it, and it's just going to charge forward and damage enemies nearby. And as you can see here, I've broken up these 2 lines because this line might be too long. So you might want to do this if you have a very long line. It might go out of screen, so consider breaking our lore lines down. And then now I'm going to go ahead and create the other 2 classes weapons. So the bow for the archer and the wand for the mage. So I'll see you after. Alright, so I've created an archer bow and a mage wand. So what the archer bow does is it's gonna have two skills. First one is concentrate, which is more of like a passive skill. So while you're crouching and if you shoot a fully charged bow, then the arrows will travel 1.5 times faster and deal 1.5 times more damage. And then the second one is barrage. Let me just add an empty line here. So the second ability is barrage. So if you left click the bow for 10 seconds, fully charged arrows will shoot in like a burst. And then for the mage, if you do a right left left click combo, it's going to cast a fireball and uses 50 mana or mana, whatever. And then if you do a right left right click combo for your thunderbolt, it will shoot out a few devastating lightning bolts wherever you're looking at. So it costs 100 mana or mana, whatever. So why I created a click combo here is because there are a few different methods of activating skills and abilities. So some popular servers will have this click combo right here. So you can have like right left right, left right left, left right right, right left left, stuff like that, and each of them will do different like skills or abilities, and I figured like a spellcaster would be perfect to show this out. And then the archer is gonna have more of like a combination thing, so you can actually combine the barrage and the concentrate, which I'll show you later while we're coding. But for now, just know that these examples here are just like concrete examples to show you that you can mix different abilities and such. Right, so now that we've created our item stacks in our items class, we can go ahead and fill them in our classes. So we're going to need an icon for our swordsman icon. Go ahead and import the static class, just import all the items because we're going to be using all of them. And then the next one we're going to need is the armor, so swordsman armor. And then lastly we need to state all the items that we want the swordsman to have. So we want to have a swordsman sword for him, and I'll give him some food as well. So we're going to give him cooked beef, 64 of them. And then we just do the same for archer icon, archer armor, archer bow. Let's give him some steak. As well as the mage, so mage icon, mage armor, and then mage 1, as well as some food. You can change this up, it doesn't always have to be cooked beef, you can go cook chicken for all you care. So we're done with this class for now. So we need to use this class somehow, and the way we're gonna select our classes is through a command. I'm just going to use /class as a command. So to do that, first off, we're going to need to go to our plugin.yml, and we need to tell the plugin.yml that we have custom commands. So we want /class, so we're just going to type class here. If you want it to be like /profession, then it's just going to be profession. And a handy thing that you can do with commands is you can have aliases. So you can have multiple aliases. So if you want /class, /kit, /profession to do the same thing, then you can state it here. So now class, kit, and profession will all activate the same command. But I'm just going to use /c, so that I can just type /c and immediately bring up the GUI. And give it a description as well, class selection GUI, or something like that. Alright, so now that we've told our plugin.yml that we need that, we can go ahead and create a subpackage here for the commands that we have, just to keep it nice and neat and organized. And then similarly to the configs package, we're going to have a abstract command class here, which is going to implement command executor. So it's going to implement command executor, and what this does is this has information containing whatever commands that we execute. So in the command executor class, you can go ahead and implement the onCommand method, which has the command sender. So it contains information of who sent the command. It can be the console, blah blah blah. The command that we have, so /class in this case, alias. So if you're not doing slash class, you're doing slash c, then it's going to be c in this case. And then an array of the arguments. So if you do slash c and then space and then something else, those will go in the arguments. We're going to return true because we want the plugin command to activate. Then we only want the player to be able to access this command, so we're just going to do if sender is an instance of a player, then we'll do something here. So then we'll just have another abstract method here called execute, which contains information of the player and the arguments sent. And then if the sender is a player, then we're gonna head and execute what the command does. So pass the command sender to a player and then fill that in. And then if it's not a player, then this will be not executed and it's going to do nothing. So lastly, we're going to need to register our command. So for every command, we're going to have the main class as well as the name of the command, so slash class in this case, and we're going to have the constructor here, which requires the main class as well as the name of the command. So let's just throw this in here. Actually, we don't need this to be stored as a variable, so we'll just do that. And then what we're going to do is we can get the plugin command. So plugin command object, plugin command from get command from the main class. So what this does is, assuming our plugin's command is called slash class, so string name will be class. And then what this does is it's going to get a command called class. It's going to go to plugin YML, it's going to search for class, it's going to take it and it's going to bring it back as a plugin command. And then we want to tell this plugin command that this class right here handles the execution for the command. So to do that, we'll do .set executor, and then this class is the one that commands it, so we'll do that. And then this will register our command and make it work. Alright, so now that we've created that abstract class, we can go ahead and create the command for it. So we want a class command, so let's go ahead and extend command, and then you want to generate the constructor here. Oops. And then since we know what name of our plugin is, command is, in this case it's class, you can sure type it in right here, class. So if you have something like slash fly, it will be fly, it will be slash heal, it will be heal, stuff like that. So in this case it's class. And then we have to implement our execute method, because we specified it in our command class that it requires an execute method. So if the sender of the command is a player, then it's going to call this method and run whatever's inside. So if it is a player, we're going to bring up a GUI, an inventory GUI, for him to select the class that he wants. So we're going to need a GUI or inventory, and we're going to create an inventory. Who's the owner of the inventory? Nobody in this case. What's the size of an inventory? The size is in multiples of 9. I'm just going to put 27, so it's going to be 3 rows. And then the title of the inventory, which is just going to be, I'm just going to put a yellow color, choose your class. Like that, and you must remember to import this color method here. Okay, so skipping ahead a little bit, after we have filled in all our items here, then we want to show the inventory to the player. So to do that, we do player.open inventory, and this is going to open up this inventory that we've created to the player. So the player is going to see this inventory and is going to be able to select the class. So what items do we want to have in there? So the items we want to have in this inventory are the icons that we created right here. So to do that, we can just call class, and for obvious reasons I can't type class right here because that's a keyword, so I'm going to use Z in place of S. I'm going to do class.values, And make sure that this class right here is importing your custom class, not the java.lang class. So what this does is going to look through all of our class values, which in this case is just going to be swordsman, archer, then mage. And then right here, right now, we're going to decide how our inventory is going to look like. So this is a picture of how an inventory looks like with all the slot indexes. As you can see, it starts from 0 and ends at 53, not 1 and ends at 54. So this is for a 54 slot inventory. So we're going to be using 27, so it's just going to be these 3 rows right here. And I want the items to start from 10, and then as we add more classes, it's going to go on and on. So this one will be swordsman, this will be archer, and this will be mage. So to do that, we can go back here and we want to say that the first slot that we want our class to in, it has to start from slot 10. So it's going to start at slot 10, and it's going to get the first value, which is swordsman, and we're going to set the item at the 10th slot, sorry, this is the wrong name, slot, as the class icon. So it's going to set the swordsman icon as slot 10, and then we're going to do slot plus plus, so it's going to increment 10 to 11, and then it's going to get the next value, which is archer. Then it's going to set the item at slot 11 now as the archer's icon, and then it's going to add 1 to the slot, so it's going to be 12, and then it's going to get mage. It's going to set the 12th slot to the mage icon. So this just allows you to have a procedural icon generating and filling system. Right, so the last thing you need to do after finishing all this is you have to go back to the main class and just do new class command this. So this will create the class, instantiate it, and then make it register the command with the server. And then here you can just go ahead and build the plugin. Right, and just ensure that your plugin has been put into the plugins folder. Don't forget, I've done it automatically. If you do it manually, just remember to insert it in here. So let's go ahead and start the server. We should see that here our plugin has created the configuration file as well as logged out the message that we told it to. And if you go back to your server folder, in your plugins folder, you see that a folder has been created for our plugin. If we go inside, you see that players.yml has been created. So you can open this up. Right now it contains nothing because we didn't do anything with it yet, but it proves that this works. And now if we hop in game, alright, so we should see that in our command right here, /class is registered. So you can do /class and it'll bring up this GUI. As you can see, choose your class as the title, and then there's the 3 icons here. And then if you can also use /c as our alias and it will work as well, as you can see. So right now our class inventory doesn't really do anything yet. You can actually drag these items out and play with them. So we need a way to detect when the player clicks this and then do something about it. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Alright, so we need to detect what the player clicks and then do something about it. So to do that, we're going to go into a new sub package here. Just going to call it listeners to keep it more organized, and we're going to call this we're going to call it a join quit listener. So it's going to implement listeners. It's going to have the main class registered, so we're going to do that. Oh boy, I spelled this wrongly. Let me just change this so there's a small letter I here. Small letter I. There we go. And then what this does is it's going to listen when the player joins and when the player quits. So to do that, we add event handler a tag here and annotation. And then we need to use the player join event. So this method will be called whenever a player joins. And similarly, if we can do this for when a player quits. So on quit, player quit event. Right. So when the player joins, we can go ahead and get what player, or which player that is, with event.getPlayer. And then we need to go ahead and create a profile for him. Why do we need a profile? If you think ahead, we actually need to store what class the player is playing as right now. And we need to store that in the class somewhere related to the player. So what we're going to do here is, in our frameworks class, I'm going to create a new class called profile. And this just stores information for our player. So we're going to have class. And we're just going to go ahead and have a constructor here for the class. And again, I can't use class like that because that's a keyword, so I use Z instead of S. And we have a getter and setter for that, and we're all cool. So now that we have a profile class, we're gonna need a profile manager to manage creating new profiles, getting of profiles. So let's create that under our manager subpackage. We're gonna need the main class as well. Profile manager, and then main. So we're gonna need the main class. And the reason why we need the main class is because this profile manager also deals with saving and loading the player information to the config file. So for that, we're gonna need to add a getter for our config manager to our main class, so that in our profile manager here, we can go ahead and get the config manager and get the player config for it. So we can go ahead and store the player config over here, like that. So now we have the player config, we can do whatever we want with it, save and load player information. So to do that, first we need a hash map. And I'm going to call it profiles, created as an instance of hash map subclass. So what this does is it stores a profile for every player, and this player we're going to use a UID, because storing a player is not really safe, because when a player quits, the information may change. And this is called a universal unique identifier. So this is a UID that is different for every player. So every player will have a profile. So to do that, first off, we need to do public profile create profile. So we're gonna have this method, which is gonna create a profile for a player if it's new to the server. So if it's new to the server, we need to create a new profile for him. And then he's not gonna have a class yet, he's gonna be classless. So we're gonna put null. Then we need to add this to our profile's hash map up here so that we can track it. So let's put the player's UUID and his profile inside. And then lastly, we can return the profile for whatever we want. So we can use this method in our join quick listener now. So we can go ahead and get the profile manager. And then we can do profile equals profile manager dot create profile as the player. But you must also remember that the player that is joining can also be a returning player, so you can't do create profile which is assuming that the player is always new. So what we do here is we can do public profile get profile. It's going to get the profile given the UID, returns this get UID. So what this method does is it returns the profile for the given player's UID, and if it doesn't exist, if the UID does not exist in this hash map, it's going to return null, as seen in this get method right here. So if it's null, then we're going to create the profile for it. So let's do that. So we're going to do profile manager dot get profile. So if this is a returning player, then this profile will not be null. But if this profile is null, then we can tell that this is a new player, and therefore we can go ahead and call create profile for this player. There we go. And then on quit, you can go ahead and do the same thing. You can mess with a profile if you want to say save the log off date or stuff like that, but we don't need it for now. We just need to create the profile for him or her. Then we also need to register our profile manager in the main class, so let's do that. So let's create a new field for our profile manager and call profile manager equals new profile manager. This, add a getter for it, voila. And then here we can go ahead and do profile manager equals main.get profile manager. There we go. So it's going to get the profile manager from the main class and then do stuff with it. Right. So one last thing we need to do for our profile manager class is we need to deal with the loading of profiles and the saving of profiles to and from this play config class here. So to do that, loading profiles will be loading from this class, saving profiles will be saving from this profile / map into this class. So let's do the saving profiles first, it's a little bit easier. So for every UID that is in our profiles, let's get the respective profile. And then we want to store the profile's information into this player config, but right now it only contains the class, so we can go ahead and go back into our player config class, and we can do public void set class, the class, and we need to say which player it is. So which player we're going to be saving the UID, so let's just do UID. Then we can do set ID dot class to this class dot get raw name. And the reason why I can't access it right now is because I'm using the wrong import of class. There we go. So that's what the raw name for this class is used for. We don't want all the MB and 7 and 6 stuff like that. So we're just going to use the raw name, strip off all that, and store it into this configuration file. And we'll also need the get class method, which is going to get the class given the UID. So it's going to return class, and then this is what this does is it's going to return get string ID dot class. And remember that ID is UID, you have to put it as a string, so you got to do toString. And then what this does is it's going to return a string, but that's not what we want. We want a class object. So in our class here, we're going to want to add a new method here called get class by name. It's going to have the name of the class. So what this does is for every single class, every single value in here is going to check whether this name is equals to the class raw name. And if it is, then it will return class. But if none of it matches, then it's going to return null. So it should not reach null unless we give a name that doesn't match either of these three. So we can go ahead and go back in here, and we can do class dot get, hang on, we gotta make this method as static so that we can access it from this class. And then we do that. So it's going to get the string, the class of our player. It's going to get a string, and it's going to turn this string into a class given the name. And this can give null, but it should not give null. So back in our player profile manager class, we can go ahead and save our class to the config. So to do that, we do save set class. Then we need the UID, and we need the class, which is profile.getClass. So this can be null as well. If it's null, then it'll be null. So our profiles here, when we load our profiles, this will be when the server starts up. Then you'll load our profiles. So we're gonna need a new method in our config class right here. And then what this method does is it's gonna get the configuration section of the plugin, of the YML file. And if it's not null, meaning it does exist, then it's gonna get each of the keys. And if it does not exist, then it's just gonna return an empty hash set. So it's just gonna return an empty array. So I'm gonna go back over here. I'm gonna do for every key that we have in player config.get section, and the section is going to start from nothing, so it's just going to be an empty string. And then we're going to turn this key into a UID because it's going to return a list of all the keys. And these keys are like each section, because each of our player will have the UID string. So it's going to have a bunch of them. We're going to iterate over each of them. So we're going to need to do UID. ID equals UID dot from string key. So it's going to turn every single key that we have into a UID. And then with this, we can go ahead and get the player's class. So class equals player config.getClass. We can throw in a UID in here, and we have the class. So this can be null or not null, depending whether the player has the class or not. So now that we have the class, we can go ahead and create the profile for the player. New profile. And we can pass in the class, which can be null. And then don't forget to add it to the profile's hash map so that you can track it. Just gonna put in the ID as well as the profile. And then we're done. So that's loading all the profiles and saving all the profiles to config. So we can go back into our main class, and then we can do profile manager dot load profiles. And you must remember over here that you have to load the profiles only after each of the configs have been loaded, because the profiles are loaded from the config files. And if the config files are not loaded yet, then it's going to cause an error. So when the player when the plugin enables, load all config files first, then load the profile. And then similarly, when the plugin stops, save all the profiles first and then save the config. So this is the reverse. We have to save all the profiles from memory into the file, and then we save the file. Otherwise, if you do it this way, it's going to save the file first, and then all your progress will be lost. So yeah. Alright, so now that all that setup is done, we can finally go ahead and test when the player clicks something in the inventory. So we're just going to call this inventory listener. Just going to implement listener. And it's going to require the on click for the inventory click event. So this detects whenever an inventory has been clicked, and then if it's clicked, it will call this method. So we're going to need the main class as well. And this is because we're going to need the profile manager. And this is because we get the profile manager so that when the player changes his class, we can go ahead and save the changes. So in here we can go ahead and get the profile of the player. So profile manager dot get profile for the player's UID. So let's go ahead and get the player here first. And get who clicked right here, it returns a human entity which you have to cast back into a player. I'm not sure why it returns human entity. They can just return player, but whatever. So player.uniqueID. It's gonna get the profile. But we don't want this method to just fire whenever any inventory is clicked. That way if they open a furnace, a chest, an anvil, blah blah blah, then it's just gonna fire this and it's gonna waste memory or processing speed and efficiency. So what we want to do is we want to limit this so that only when we click on that choose your class inventory, then this will fire. So to do that, if event.getView, so we get the inventory view and we want the title of the inventory view. So it can be large chest, anvil, enchantment table, furnace, but if it's the inventory that we want, it will be, this title will return the yellow color choose your class. So we need to say dot equals, in our case, if this title is equivalent to an E, which is yellow color, choose your class. So we just make sure that this right here is the same as whatever we have in our command. Yep, it's the same. So choose your class NE, choose your class NE. Let me just import the color method. Alright, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and put an exclamation mark here. So if the event title, or if the inventory title is not a yellow color choose your class, then we don't want to do anything, we just return. But if it is, then we'll do whatever code down here. So we're gonna need the slot of wherever the player clicked, so get raw slot. And we also want to include the event.setCancelled true. What this does is whenever the player clicks the item, aka picks up the item, he's not actually going to pick up the item. The click will still go through, but the item will stay in the inventory and will not be on his cursor. So that's good. Alright, so now we need to test whether this slot right here, the slot that the player clicks in, is corresponding to one of the icons of the classes. And we know that the classes icon starts at slot 10, so we can do if slot is lesser than 10, and then we can go ahead and write class.values. Let's just get all the classes available so far, and then we need to check if slot is lesser than 10. So if it's not clicking anything, so if it's clicking anything before the 10 slot, or he's clicking anything after the 10th plus classes dot length. So in this case 10 plus classes dot length will be 13, since there's only 3 different classes that we created. So if he's clicking anything below 10 or above 13, then you don't want to do anything, so we just return here. But if he is clicking anything between 11, 12 and 13, then we want to do something, because we know those 10, 11, 12, because we know those slots 10, 11, 12 correspond to a class. So to do that here, we're going to do something along the lines of this. Class selected. So we want to get the selected class. So to do that, we'll do classes and we want to access the array. So click the slot minus 10. So if the click slot right now is 10, so he clicks the first one, which is swordsman, 10 minus 10 will be 0, and then it will be classes 0, classes 0, which is swordsman. If the slot is 11, then this will be 11 minus 10, which is 1. So classes 1 will be archer, and so on and so forth. So the selected will get which class that he selected. And then we also need what class he currently is. So we do current equals profile.getClass. So current can be null. So if he selects a new class, we're gonna want to do profile.setClass equals whatever class that is selected. But if the selected class is equals to his current class, then we don't want to do anything, and we'll just do player.close inventory. So we'll close the the GUI and it will say message player. You are already in this class. I mean, you have already selected this class. And we'll just put it as a light red color, so NC. Alright, and if it's not the current class, if it chooses a new class, then we can go ahead and say you have selected the, and then give it a color, class dot get name class. So you have selected the whatever class that he selected, class. And then we can go ahead and close the inventory for the player. Alright, so this should work. And we need a visible representation of what class he's in, so that when we change the class, we can see whether the class changing actually worked. So to do that, we're going to have another listener here. You don't actually need to create another another class. You can just write the next event over here. But for the sake of keeping this tidy, I'm just going to create a chat listener. Implement listener. It's going to need the main class profile manager. So it's going to get the main class's profile manager. And then it's going to listen out for an event called async player chat event. So whenever the player types something in the chat, this will fire. So first things first, we need to get which player said that. We need to get the player's profile. And then we need to get the player's class. So if the player's class, remember to change this to the correct import. So if the class is null, meaning that he does not have a class right now, he literally just joined the server and he did not select the class just yet, then first and foremost we'll do event.setCancel true. So the message that the player sent won't go through. And then we'll do for player. So for each player that is online, we message them with the new format. So this little few lines right here is going to replicate sending a message to every single player in the server. So we're just going to do something like peasant. So is that how you spell peasant? Peasant with an A, I think. So if the player does not have a class, we're just going to do peasant. Okay, maybe let's not be so mean. We'll just say classless. Classless, and then we'll do player.getName. And then arrow, or we can just do colon. And then whatever message that he said. So event.get message. But if the class is not null, which means the player has the class, then we'll just do something like this. So now we can't write we can't hardcode in classless because now he does have a class. So we'll just do class.get name and then n8 close the bracket so that looks nice. Then we put the player's name, colon, and then whatever message they're saying. Alright. So if the player does not have a class, we're just going to add classless in. If the player does have a class, we're going to state his class and then send whatever message you're sending. So let's go ahead and register these events. So right here, I'm going to do plugin manager equals get server dot get plugin manager. Then we can do plugin manager dot register events. So what events do you want? We have a join quit listener event. We also have inventory listener and chat listener. Let's go ahead and do that. And voila. So now you can go ahead and build the artifact. So compile your plugin. So right now I don't have a class. Okay, so I don't have a class so far. I did not select one. Just throw that out. So if I type something in chat, there we go, you can see I'm classless. So let's go ahead and select the class right now. Go with swordsman. As you can see, the inventory closes. The items don't glitch out like that. And then it says you have selected the swordsman class. So let's see if that is true. There we go, you can see that I'm a swordsman now. And if I try to select this again, because I'm already swordsman, you have already selected this class. So if we change to mage, you should say mage. There we go. So that's our click registration done. So now let's go ahead and stop the server and see whether this information here, I'm currently mage right now, will save to the config. So let's do that. And back over here it says that save the data to players.yml. My bad, there should be 2. I'll change that later on. But let's go ahead and see if that's true. So if we go into our plugin folder, there we go, you can see that this is my UID for that one RR, and you can see that his class is mage. So the saving works, and let's see if the starting works. So right now in the players.yml, the class is mage. So if we start this up, right, and it should say that I'm a mage class. So hi, there we go. You can see that the save and loaded to from config. So my data as a mage persists over server restarts, so that works. So after we have finished the class selection, we must not forget that we must give the players whatever items that the class has. So first we'll go ahead and do player.getInventory.clear. So it's going to clear the player's inventory, and we're going to give him the items that the class has. So to do that, we'll do getInventory to set armor contents, and we can do selected.getArmor, and then player.getInventory.give add item, sorry. And then this requires a few items tags. As many items tags as you want, you can just chuck it in there. And we can just do selected.getItems. So we're going to clear the player's inventory, give him the class armor and the items from the class. So now we're going to be moving on to skills and abilities of each classes. So as you can see from these items here, these 5 items over here, I've already planned out which ability which class has, and this is really only limited by your imagination. You can let your imagination run wild here. You can create a bunch of weird abilities if you want, but right now I'm going to stick to simple ones, and I'm going to be showcasing how you can do different types of activation methods. So let's go ahead and do the abilities. So for that we're going to need another listener. I'm going to call this click listener. Implement listener as per usual. And it's going to require a profile manager as per usual, because we need to check what class the player has. Right, this is not needed. Then we're going to check on click, and here we're going to need to do a new type of event called player interact event. And this event tests whether the player clicks left or right click, be a block or an air block, and if it does click, and then this method will be called. So let's get who clicked. Right, so after we get who the player is that clicked, we need to check whether he's holding any items. So item stack item equals event player.get inventory item in main hand, and then we need to check whether or not this item is null or equal to any other item that we need to check out for. So we need to check whether or not the item is equal to the swordsman sword, the bow, or the wand. And to do that, we can just go ahead and do item start. And then remember that items has to be our own items. Dot swordsman sword is similar to the item that the player is holding, or if the archer's bow is similar to the item that he's holding, or if the mage wand is similar to the item that he's holding. And what is similar is it's almost the same as equals. The only thing that it does not check is the item stack size. So let's say you have 64 mage wands stacked in one, this will still execute. So yeah. So for the swordsman sword, we need to check whether he's right clicking. Alright, so I've changed up the ability for swordsman a little bit. I've made it swivel because I think it's a little bit cooler. What it does is it's gonna damage the entities that are near the player, maybe say like a 5 block or 4 block around the player, and it's gonna damage those entities around him. So to do that, if the player is right clicking a block or right clicking air, then they're gonna say something like for entity player.get nearby entities, then how many in the X direction, we do 4, how many in the Y direction, we just do 2, and then 4. So what this method does is it just gets the nearby entities in the 4 on the x-axis, 4 on the z-axis, 2 on the y-axis near the player, and then it iterates through each entity. So when you check whether or not this entity is a living entity, so whether or not it can be damaged. So if the entity near the player is a living entity, it can be an armor stand, a wolf, a creeper, then we'll do living entity equals living entity. So it's casted in there first, then we'll do e.damage, and then we damage him for, let's just say 7, which is 3.5 hearts. And then we want to set the knockback of this entity away from the player. So it's going to create a vector from the place location to the entity's location, and this is going to be depending on how far the entity is to the player. So the further the entity is to the player, the more knockback is generated, but that doesn't really make sense. So for the most part, we're just going to do dot multiply by 0.6f, try to tune down how much knockback is given. I'm sure there's some sort of like fancy algorithm you can come up with here to perfect how much knockback it generates, but for now this should be enough. And then after this will create a swing effect, but I also intend for the swing effect to have a cooldown so that you can't like just hold on right click and just run into a bunch of enemies and kill them all instantly. So for every single cooldown that we have, we'll have a new hash map. So your ID, and then we have how much time there is left. So this will be called swivel cooldown. After the player uses the ability, we want to add him to cooldown, so we're going to add him into swivel CD right here. So down here we can put something along the lines of swivel CD dot put player dot get unique ID, and then we'll just set a cooldown to about 5 seconds around there, maybe 7 seconds. Alright, so after the player uses the ability, we'll put a cooldown on him of 7 seconds, and then before he uses the ability right here, whoops, this should be in here. So before he uses the ability, we want to check whether or not he does have a cooldown. So if swivel cooldown does contain the player's UID, it means that he is currently in cooldown of the ability, and therefore we want to return and then message him that you are currently in cooldown for swivel. And then we can do something more advanced and tell him how much time he has left. So let's go ahead and set cooldown off, and then we can give him the time, which is swivel cd.get player.unique ID seconds for swivel. And just give this a yellow color so that it's highlighted. So if the player is in cooldown, we're not going to do anything. We can tell him that he's in cooldown for how many seconds he has left. And if he's not in cooldown, we're going to perform the ability and then put him into cooldown. And then we're going to make the actual cooldown right here. So to do that, we'll do a runnable. And we'll run this runnable every 1 second. So we're going to need the main class right here. Right. So in this runnable right here, every second is going to reduce the cooldown timer by 1 until it's 0. Then when it's 0, it'll remove the player from the cooldown. So to do that, we'll do something along the lines of integer current equals swivel cooldown.get player.get unique ID. So we get the current cooldown that is in. If current cooldown is more than 0, then we go ahead and replace the current cooldown with the cooldown minus 1. So count down by 1 second. If it is equals to 0 though, then we're going to need to cancel this runnable, so we stop counting every 20 seconds, and we just do cd.remove player.unique ID. So if the cooldown is more than 0 seconds, we're going to count down by 1 every second. If the cooldown is 0, we'll remove the player entirely from the cooldown and then cancel this runnable. So this right here should do the trick. Right, lastly, we just need to register our listener. Don't forget that. Click listener, and then we just need to build the plugin, and then I'll see you guys in the server. Come on, loading terrain. Okay, I'm currently the mage class, as you can see. So let me just change my class to the swordsman, and you can see that we got the unbreakable armor for swordsman, as well as the sword. You can see the nice little custom name and custom lore that we give it. And if we just right click near an entity, actually let me just find a bunch of entities here. 64, let's just do pigs. And if I right click this sword, as you can see, they all take knockback and they take damage. And if I right click again, you can see that I'm in cooldown here. Alright, one thing I also have forgot to mention before I use these items is when you detect the right click right here and you determine that they want to use the ability, you have to do event.set cancel true. So that way, if they're right clicking say an anvil or a door, then the door won't open, the anvil won't pop up a GUI. So the event won't send through, but the ability will still activate. So you have to do this for every single other item. And I'm just going to go ahead and do up the archer bow here and then show you how it works. Alright, so for the archer bow, as you can see in the lore here, I said that one of the abilities that I wanted it to have is a barrage ability. So when I left click it, for the next 10 seconds, fully charged arrows will shoot in burst. So what this happens is when I left click over here, then I will check whether or not it's in barrage mode. So if it is already in barrage mode, meaning you already left clicked, then it will just say you're currently in barrage mode and do nothing. And if it's currently in cooldown, meaning that his barrage ran out and he's in cooldown, then you'll say barrage is in cooldown for another how many seconds. So if it's not in cooldown and he's not currently barraging, we'll add him so that he is currently in barrage mode, and then set the cooldown to 15 seconds. And then we have a runnable over here that will count every second, and then at the last second it will remove him from the cooldown and cancel this runnable. But at the 5th second, meaning from 5 to 15 seconds, that's for 10 seconds, the barrage mode will activate, but at the 5th seconds, meaning the 10 seconds has run out, then he will be removed from the barraging array list. As you can see up here, I've created a barraging array list and another cooldown hash map. And then this needs to be worked in pair with another listener, because we need a listener to check whether or not the player has shot an arrow. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so there's another listener that I created here called entity shoot bow event. And what this event does is whenever an entity shoots a bow, be it a player, a skeleton, a wither skeleton, then this method will be called. So first off, we get a projectile, and then we ensure there's an arrow. Obviously it will be an arrow. So alright, so I've created another listener over here called entity shoot bow event on shoot. So whenever an entity shoots a bow, be it a player or skeleton, this method will be called. So we get the projectile, cast it to an arrow, check whether the entity that fired the bow is a player. If it's not a player, if it's a skeleton or something else, then we don't want to do anything. The next step here, we have another ability here called concentrate. So while sneaking, fully charged arrows will shoot faster and do more damage. So this is what that does. If the player is sneaking, so if he's in crouching mode, and if the arrow's force is more than or equal 1, so the arrow's force can be between 0 to 1. 1 meaning is fully charged. So if it is equals to 1, it means that he is sneaking and he is fully charging a bow. So the arrow's damage will be 1.5 times. The velocity will be 1.5 times. And then we're going to create a runnable here. So it's going to run 20 times a second. It's going to spawn these crit magic particles behind the arrow. And what crit magic is when you hit a player or an entity with sharpness, you get these blue particles. So that's crit magic. So if the arrow is dead, if it's removed, if it's despawned for some reason, or if it hit the ground, then we'll cancel the runnable. So next up over here with this chunk is for the barrage mode. So if the player is currently barraging and he is fully charging a bow, then we're going to create a runnable here that runs about 6 times every second. So there's 20 ticks in a Minecraft second, so it runs once every 3 ticks. So it equalizes to about 6 times every second. So it's going to run about 6 times every second, and it's going to play a sound of arrow shoot. So it's going to play the sound of arrow shoot, and then it's going to make the player shoot a projectile of an arrow, and then set the damage to the previous arrow's damage, as you can see up here. So the arrow that he first shot, we're going to replicate the same arrow, and then we're going to check whether or not he's using concentrate as well. So if he's using concentrate, then we just set the damage to 1.5 times. Then we need to set the velocity also to 1.5 times. You don't have to put D over here. That just means double. And then same thing over here, create a runnable that spawns that sharpness particle thing. And then sharp minus equals 1. So it's going to shoot a total of 5 arrows in the next about 1 second or so, which is a bit less than 1 second. And then after all the shots are done, cancel the runnable. Alright, so don't forget to change the event.set cancel to inside the left click block if block right here. And then you can go ahead and build the plugin, and I'll see you guys in the server. Alright, so let's try out the concentrate first. So for reference, I'm not crouching right now, I'm just going to be standing up straight. And I'm going to be aiming for that block over there. I'm going to just do an F5 mode so you guys can see I'm not crouching. Alright, so it's fully charged. I'm going to release it. And you can see that it hit the bottom block over there, even though I aimed for the top. But if I'm crouching, you can see that, I'm just going to show you that I'm using the crouching mode. It hits the block above it, so I'm crouching right now. You can see that the blue particles fly out. They fly out kind of fast, but there's probably a better way to spawn the particles like that. But you can see the clear difference between the velocity of a normally shot arrow. So if I shoot it at that tree over there, and now I'm crouching, you can see that the velocity is much faster. So one fully charged shot and then two fully charged shots. So if I'm crouching though, you can see it kills it instantly because it's 1.5 times the damage. Alright, and now we can go ahead and check out the barrage. So let me just pick it up first. So for the barrage, you have to left click first, and then for the first 10 seconds, fully charged arrows will shoot in burst mode. So if I left click, you can see that my action bar over here has the message of this, and if I try to left click, I'm still in barrage mode, so let's just wait for it to run out. Alright, and I have a 15-second cooldown, so if I click right here, you can see that I have a cooldown, which should run out right now. So if I left click and I shoot an arrow, you can see that they shoot out in burst fire mode, and it looks pretty cool. So yeah, and then when it runs out, you shoot it again, it's going to be a normal bow. And you can see that if I were to crouch for concentrate, it's only going to work for fully charged arrows. Normal arrows still fire at the same rate. And same thing for barrage. So if I'm using barrage right now and I'm not fully charging it, it won't fire a bunch of arrows, but if I am fully charging it, then it will fire a lot of arrows. Alright, now that we're back in the listener, there are a few things we need to do first before we test out the one. First things first, we need to have a hash map which contains an integer, and this is going to be called mana. So let's just say player mana. And this hash map will track how much mana each player has, or mana, whatever. And then the other map that we need to create is gonna be the one CC, and CC stands for click combo. So we're gonna have a bunch of strings here for the click combo. So as we click more, it's going to change this string from like R to RL to RRL and RLR, depending on what clicks they have. And to do that, we can go down here and over here, and we can do a little something like this. So first off, we want to set cancel to true, and then we want to test what click the player has done. So to do that, we do something along the lines of string combo equals to 1cc dot get player dot get unique ID. So this is going to get the current combo that is in the hash map. So if it's null, it means that the player does not have any combo yet. If it's not null, it means the player has an existing combo. So right, so after getting a combo from the hash map, I want to check whether the combo is null. So if the player doesn't have combo yet, or the player's combo has not reached the length of 3, it means that it's an invalid combo, an incomplete combo, or one that does not exist at all. So we can go ahead and test for what clicks the player have made over here. So let's go ahead and test the clicks. So first off, we need to check if the combo is null. If the combo is null, then we'll just set it back to like an empty string. So if he hasn't started a combo yet, we'll give him a base point. But if he has started it yet, then we'll go ahead and detect what click he has done. So if the action is left click air or left click block, then obviously it'll be an L, so we go ahead and do combo plus equals L. But if it's a right click air or a right click block, then it's gonna be plus equals to R for right. And after that's done, we replace the current combo into a one click combo hash map right here so that we can update it. Alright, so this is if the combo is not complete yet. However, if the combo is complete, so if the length is equals to 3 or more, but it should not be more because it should come here before going to more. So if the click combo is 3, we want to first remove it from this combo. So we do 1cc dot remove clear the get unique ID. And then next we want to check how much mana the player has left. So we're doing mana left equals to mana dot get player dot get unique ID, and this is gonna get how much mana the player has left. Alright, and next up what we want to do is we're to test what combo he is in. So do a little switch here. You can use if else as well, but I'm just going to use this. So combo, and then we know that combo is all in lowercase, so we can go ahead and do something like case RLL, so right left left, that's going to be the fireball spell, and if it's a RLR, right left right, is going to be the thunderbolt spell. So for each of these circumstances we need to subtract the amount of mana that he has left. But first we need to check how much mana he has left. So we have to check whether or not he has the mana enough to cast the spell. So we have to check whether or not the mana left is lesser than 50. So if it is less than 50, we don't want to do anything. I want to send him a message that you do not have enough mana. So we're going to head and do this. You do not have enough mana to cast this spell. And again, you can tell him how much mana he needs. You can do 50 minus the mana left, but I'm kind of lazy to do it right now. So if he does have enough mana, more than or equals to 50, then first off, let's go ahead and subtract the amount of mana that he has left. So update his mana from mana left to mana left minus 50. So he now has 50 less mana. And then we go ahead and cast the fireball spell right here. So to do that, we do something along the lines of, it's really similar to the arrow shooting projectile thing. So just do fireball equals to, and then player dot launch projectile. So it's going to be a fireball dot class. Okay, and then the fireball we're going to set is incendiary, so we don't need to cast fire. Let's just say false. Set you, just gonna say 2F, so that's about half the explosive damage of a TNT. And then we're gonna set the direction to be the player's direction, wherever he's looking at. And I don't really think this line is necessary, because it should already be launched in the direction wherever the player is looking, but just in case, you guys can try to omit this line if you want. It should work, I think. And then yeah, so this is the casting fireball spell. So now we can do the same for the thunderbolt spell right here. Alright, so for right left right, the thunderbolt spell is mostly going to be similar. So I've did the same thing up here. I checked whether or not the mana left of the player is lesser than 100. So if he does have more than 100, if he doesn't have more than 100 or more, then I've did a little example I said earlier, so we can tell him how much mana he has left short of casting the thunderbolt spell. But if he does let him have that amount of mana, then we'll go ahead and subtract 100 and update the player mana. And then after that, we go ahead and get the location that the player is looking at with get target block, get location. And then after that, we have a runnable over here. So you can see I have integer strikes equals 3, so I want to have 3 rounds of strikes, thunderbolt strikes. And then it's gonna run about 3 times every second. And then down here I have a location of 3, so it's gonna select 3 random locations. So array of 3 random locations. I'm just gonna have this algorithm over here, which is gonna have math.random, which generates a number between 0 and less than 1. And you're gonna times 6, so it generates a number between 0 and 6, excluding 6. And then we're going to randomize whether or not we want the X and Z positions to be negative, so on the left or right, or at the top or the bottom. Then after that, we're going to head and store it into the array. Then for every single randomly generated location, we go ahead and strike a lightning at that location. And then after all the strikes are done, we go ahead and cancel this array. So what this does is, first it reduces the amount of mana that you have 100. It's going to get the location you're looking at. So from your location that you're looking at right now, it's going to have a plus minus 6 blocks, and it's going to strike lightning at 3 spots in those 6 blocks, plus or minus 6 blocks for 3 times. So in total you're going to have about 9 lightning. So yeah, that's what this RLR does. Alright, so after creating our spells, we want a way to show the player how much mana that they have left, and what click combo they are currently at. So all the way up here in the constructor, we create a new runnable which runs 20 times a second. That's the max amount of times, and we want to have a way to show the player how much mana and click combo they're at right now. So we do something along the lines of this. So what the heck, did you just skip a big chunk like last time? Alright, right, I'll just explain what I'm doing here. I'm skipping chunks right now because I really want to eat right now, so I just type them all out first and I explain them afterwards. It's like 12:30 right now, so it is when I usually eat my lunch, so I want to try to finish this as fast as possible. So bear with me, guys. So here I have a new runnable here which runs 20 times a second, and I get all the current online players and I see whether or not they are holding the mage one. And if they are holding the mage one, we'll send them an action bar message. What is the action bar message? The action bar message will contain, firstly, the mana that they have. So it's out of 200, it caps at 200. So if the player does not have any mana, meaning they just joined the server, we'll add that in. So we'll show them how much mana they have right now, or mana rather, and then we'll get the amount, the click combo that they have right now. So if they don't have a click combo currently, then we won't add anything. If they have a click combo, so if it's not equals to null, then we'll append the message over here. So we can do something along the lines of plus equal as well. And after that, we'll send this entire message to the player. So we'll send a message together with the click combo, if they have any, to the player's action bar. And then after that, if they are not using the mage one, if they're not holding the mage one, then we remove them from 1cc. So if they are in the middle of like right left and they want to finish the click combo, but they realize maybe they have to like eat a cooked pork chop or something, then they switch out of their hotbar to the other slot, then we'll reset their click combo. So yeah, so this mana thing will only be accessible if you are holding the mage one. If you're not, it won't show up. And then down here we have a separate runnable here which runs 10 times a second, as you can see, 2L. So for every single player that is in the player mana, so basically every server, every player that's online, then we're gonna try to replenish their mana. How does this work? First we get how much mana they have left. If it's any lesser than 200, so it's lesser than the max capacity, then we just add one, about 10 times a second. So yeah, well, you're gonna regen about 10 mana a second, and then it's gonna display it to your action bar. So right, so before I get like 1,000 comments saying yes, you forgot to show this method right here, up here in this method where we show what combo it is right now, I have this little method here called format combo. So what I do is I get the current combo, so say RLL, that is stored inside this hash map over here. Then I pass into this little method right here, which will just change them into the correct color. So L will be in uppercase and it's going to be replaced with blue color, and R is going to be replaced with a dark red color, and then any other empty slots that are not available will be replaced with a gray color underscore. So yeah, that's what you guys saw there. Let's just check. Yeah, I am in, there we go, I am in the mage class, and you can see that the action bar message appears right here when we hold the wand, and if we don't hold the wand, it should disappear after a while. There we go. So if we hold the wand, it appears, and if we try to do the click combo right here, you can see that it does appear as our message. And if we do right left left, there we go, you can see that we fire a fireball, and yes, it does damage. Let me just find a mob right here. Boom. And you can see that it takes 15 mana off our mana bar. Alright, next up, let me just show you guys the lightning that I did. Pick, spawn egg. So if this works, I think it should turn all these into pigmen and or kill them, but we'll see. So I'm looking at this block right there. So if I do right left right, you can see. So it takes 100 mana off, so I should have about 60. There we go. me strikes lightning 3 times in a row onto a 6x6 from where you're looking at. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It doesn't really damage them though. So if we try something else, like, let's just say chicken, you know what? Yeah, I think a chicken would be good. So we have a bunch of chickens here. Boom. Even damages myself. Alright, pretty cool. So as you can see, it all works, and yeah. Alright, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this plugin coding guide. I really need to go and eat right now. So yeah, if you have enjoyed, leave a like, whatever. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.